In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Fundable podcast. Your host, Merrill Chandler, and I'm going to take you on a tour of what it means to freeze and unfreeze your credit accounts, also known or technically known by the bureaus as a security freeze. So when we get back, we'll take a look at all three bureaus. And welcome. Merrill Chandler here, your host of the Get Fundable podcast. Get Fundable. All right. I'm very fond of you. Get Fundable podcast. And today we're talking about what it means to put, what is a security freeze? Some people call it a credit freeze because you're freezing your credit files at the bureaus. But what it is a security freeze. And let's start from the beginning. First of all, in the world of fraudulent applications, in the world of stolen identities, one of the things that the credit bureaus and lenders have put into place is that if there's been fraudulent activity, somebody opened an account in your name, the number one step for stopping that is to put a freeze on your credit profile. And we're going to go over that in a moment of what that looks like, where to find the resources, etc. For those of you who are viewing this, you're going to be able to see it live. If you are listening to this, be sure and go to getfundablepodcast.com, getfundablepodcast.com, and look up this episode, and you'll see the screenshots that we're showing on air right now. But the most important thing for us to realize is that if you put on a credit freeze, nobody can have access to your profile. I get solutions clients all the time asking me, say, so do I need to take off my credit freeze? I had trouble 3 years ago. Do I need to take off my credit freeze to work with you or to optimize my profile? The answer is hell yes, because nobody gets access to a profile except under really, really specific circumstances. And I'll show you what those look like. So just know that we're going to review the websites. And for those of you listening, I'll be as detailed as I can in reading what we're seeing on screen. But I want you to know how to freeze it in case there is a problem. And for many of you, I want to show you how to unfreeze it and the circumstances to do so that you are able to get back into the funding approval game. Because without your credit profile, you are dead in the water for both personal and business approvals. So let's take a look. I'm going to share my screen right now, and we're going to look at, here we go. Let's take a look first at the Experian website. Now, all you have to do to find this page is say Experian credit freeze or security freeze, and it's gonna bring you right here. Now, notice that there is the security freeze is a button to get started with a freeze, so if you've had fraudulent activity. Now, if you're working with me or my team in any way, and we do not do this process on your own. The reason is because if we want to evaluate the fraudulent or the identity theft or otherwise, because if you're in the middle of optimizing your profile, we want to vet the threat. All right, and sorry for the rhyme. We want to vet how threatened your profile actually is. But let's say it is. Notice there's 3 steps: info, account, and verify. There are 3 steps on this website, and they're going to want to put your information in here. Now, here's what's interesting. Again, if you have a PBID, either from listening to all the podcasts, being part of the boot camp, mastermind, or a solutions client, you're going to want to put in the version of your name that the inquiry was used that isn't yours, the fraudulent inquiry. Are you following me? You don't want to put in your PBID if you have one, because unless the fraudsters used your PBID, you want to use whichever version of your name that you can deduce was used by the fraudsters. Same with the address, etc. They're trying to identify you, but we don't want them to identify your PBID, your personal borrower identity. We want to identify what the fraudsters use. So be very careful about what you put in here. Next, going back, going back, you can manage a freeze. Now, when you manage a freeze, I'm not going to be able to go in here because we haven't established it, but when you're managing a freeze, they're going to assign you in the setup process a sometimes 9, sometimes 10-digit code. So you've got to manage your freezes, fraud alerts, all the stuff. They're going to make you have an account at My Equifax. But notice back here when we were signing in, a 10-digit security freeze PIN is no longer needed to manage a security freeze. That is not necessarily true with the other bureaus, but Equifax is making it easier. But what they are doing is making you get an account at myequifax.com. They stole that straight from myfigo.com. But anyway, myequifax.com, and you're going to file that freeze. Now, let's go down here. So how does it work? Right? You place the freeze on your credit, your Equifax credit report. And remember, this is all 3 bureaus have their own versions. You can't, it's not like opting out of a mailing list where you can go to one's opt-out prescreen.com, opt out of all of your stuff, as we've described in a previous podcast, and they broadcast it to all the bureaus. You have to do this for each bureau specifically. Now, notice what the security freeze restricts all access to your Equifax credit reports for the purpose of extending credit in your name. Now that is kind of like the cow's already out of the barn, so you shut the barn door. But we don't want that fraudster having further access to any of your credit accounts. Then when you want to apply for credit, then you can temporarily lift or permanently remove your security freeze. So those are the basic steps with all 3 bureaus, but I've illustrated it here in Equifax. Now, notice that it says you can temporarily lift. You can give permission to one lender that you're selecting to go in and get your credit. But here's the problem. In automatic underwriting, we do not know when that's going to happen. So for manual underwriting, if you're going to go get a mortgage, yes, you can unfreeze these. They can pull a mortgage report and try to close it back down. It's not going to work very well. It's super kludgy. These guys, they're doing their best, but it's not a seamless and flawless process. So we recommend that we clean up the identity. We want to clean up all the information that you are going to be using in any application, mortgage or otherwise. And then once you get that cleaned up, all the PBID stuff, get all that sorted, then you start doing your new credit applications, including mortgages. All right. So they say you can temporarily lift it, but it is not. It is not a seamless process. So I encourage you 100% of the time to clean it up first, and then go clean up the identity theft or the fraud, then begin your optimization process or your funding process once again. All right, now let's take a look at what Transunion says. Again, if you're listening to this, you're just going to Google Transunion credit freeze, and it'll take you to the page, or you can go to getfundablepodcast.com and look at all of these screenshots are being provided inside of the blog version, the written version. Now, a credit freeze, they give you three options. Freeze your credit. You can add a freeze, you can unfreeze, or you can freeze a loved one's credit, a spouse, a minor, deceased relative, or a parent, so that you can manage this on behalf of somebody else. But once again, all of them are all of these options. If you add a freeze, I'm clicking on the add a freeze button. Add a freeze. There's three steps. Who are you? Create your account. Again, TransUnion wants you to be a verifiable subscriber or member. This doesn't cost you anything, but they want you to be in their system. And then you're going to be verifying your identity, and they're going to pull information from your credit report for you to validate your trade lines or account information. Once again, let's go back, and so that's adding a freeze. To unfreeze your account, you click on the unfreeze button. Notice you have to log in, just like we did on Equifax. You have to log in, and once you log in, then they're going to let you manage your entire account. So now I'm going to tell you right now, you'll see in every one of these, they'll say dispute is a button that you can do, because hey, it's not your account, you didn't open it up, so you want to dispute it. As I say in the boot camp, as I say in my book, as I say in the Momentum Mastermind, do not ever do disputes from the website. They pinhole all your disputes, and you can't even dispute you can't dispute well the identity pieces. You always want to do disputes manually written from your computer or otherwise, or verbally by calling them. All right, then let's go to so that finishes. Those are your freeze and unfreeze. They've made it super simple, and everything that you need to know is right here. Just remember, to freeze and unfreeze, you have to start an account with each one of the bureaus independently. Finally, I'm pulling up the Experian website for security freeze. Again, all you're doing is literally saying Experian freeze credit or free security freeze, and it'll bring you to the exact page that you need. Super simple. And what we need to, so let's grow this out a little bit. And what would you like to do? So here it's add a security freeze, remove or lift a security freeze, retrieve my personal identification number, or grant a creditor one-time access to my file. Let's go over here since the other ones are all there. So request a single-use personal identification number. And notice how much trouble this is. You're putting everything in here to get a single-use personal identification number. Just horrible what the hoops they go through. If you're going to add freeze your own credit, then you click on that, add a security freeze, and it's giving you the same information to complete on this file, and you have to do it all. And these will time out. I don't know if it's 10 or 15 minutes. It is not a long time. These will time out. And then if you have a PIN, put your PIN in, or as it said on the previous page, request a PIN so that you can even come in and create these so that you can create an account with them. Once you have an account, this is where it says where's my PIN, or retrieve my PIN, and now I have to fill out the same information to even request the PIN that's already been done, forgotten or misplaced. All right, so And Experian is still saying a PIN is needed to freeze a credit report or to provide creditor access to your report. Now, here's the take-home message, guys. So this isn't complicated. This is the take-home message. You cannot truly move forward in your fundability optimization path if you have a credit freeze on any one of your credit reports. First of all, you don't know for sure. I tell you how to vet and find out, but you don't know for sure that someone's going to pull Experian. So if Experian's frozen, but the other two are not, they may pull it. Automatic underwriting is completely obliterated. Automatic underwriting it completely stops. All systems stop if you have a security freeze. So this podcast is all about seeing to watch out for the landmines and to see what is important for you to establish. Each one of the bureaus needs you to set up an account. 2 of the 3 bureaus need a PIN or a single access. Do not dispute from online, even the fraudulent accounts, and do not apply for credit while you have a freeze. Those are the 4 major take-homes for this podcast. This is Merrill Chandler, your host of the Get Fundable podcast, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast because we want them to get fundable too.